The Defense Ministry has declined permission to a movie maker who wanted to tell the story of a soldier who quit the army. He was gay, he loved the army, but he found it difficult to reconcile his sexual orientation with his life as a soldier. Onir, the filmmaker, had approached the military for permission to go ahead with this movie that is, as we said, inspired by the real life story of Major Suresh. Now, in a country that has decriminalized homosexuality, how does this make sense? The military, of course, like militaries all over the world, will have to confront the phenomenon of men and women in its ranks being gay. But at the moment, they are choosing perhaps an ostrich like response, burying their head in the sand and pretending that this doesn't exist. Now, it should be said, of course, as we welcome Onir to the program, that the Indian military isn't the only military in the world that is grappling with this question. The Americans, for example, for decades had a don't ask, don't tell attitude to the sort of personal, private sexual orientation of their troops. Onir is with us, and we'll hear in the program from Major Suresh as well, whose real life story that this film was going to be based on. Onir, tell us a little bit about why you wanted to tell this story, what it meant to you, and what the military said in response.
When I saw the interview that Major Suresh had given, what it really struck me is that this was after 2018 Supreme Court verdict on 377. And this whole realization that though it has been a long fight for equal rights and decriminalization of homosexuality, but we were really far away from society as such accepting us, because it's not just about being decriminalized, it's about civil rights and this right. And what I found really ridiculous is, why should one's sexuality, though I know it is also a norm in many other countries, uh, be be the bar by which your patriotism or your ability to serve your country in the army be decided? Because at the end of it, 56 countries in the world, it's accepted in the army. And probably this is something that's, again, like 377 itself, a rule that or law that has been uh, here because of the British colonial law, probably 1857, these things. And we are still hanging on to it, though in UK, homosexuality was decriminalized and accepted in the army in 2000. And what is also significant is in 2007, the army in UK apologized to the gay community for having discriminated the community for so long. And we are here in 2022, 75 years of independence, and we are still denying the basic rights. It's just
Well,
ridiculous.
Only, as somebody who's reported on the military for decades, even getting women into more active roles, that change has been slow in coming, but now it's coming like a flood. And we're seeing it, and the military is having to readapt itself to that change. So I personally think it's only a matter of time before we see these things also change as they should. My question to you is, not many people know, I know this, but I think we need to explain it to a larger audience. Why did you have to approach the defense ministry for actually approval before you went ahead to tell the story on the life, inspired by the life of Major Suresh?
Uh, when I started working on the script, honestly, even I didn't have the idea, that in 2020 there was this new law which has come in, where you have to, if you are portraying anything or anyone from the army, you have to get an NOC from the Ministry of Defense. Now, if I don't have the NOC, then I won't be able to, get any platform, any studio to fund or finance my film. So it's become a necessity. Unlike earlier, when I feel as a filmmaker, you could make a film. And then, of course, like, I think that in 2005, 2011, and 2017, I made 3 films. I Am, My Brother Nikhil Shab, which dealt with homosexuality when it was criminalized by law. But I could
Yeah.
make these films because it's important to have that discourse. And today, these kind of discourses only open up spaces for equality, But right now, unfortunately, I can't even make the film because
That's
I'm
quite
being stopped.
ironic. That's quite ironic that you
Exactly.
were able to make very personal, almost memoir-like movies on being gay in India, where it was still a crime to be gay.
Yeah,
And today,
yeah,
when it is decriminalized, you're not able to tell this
absolutely.
story.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
very very ironic. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Oni. Go
And
ahead.
I think it's important that, the space for dialogue in a democratic country should not be closed. That why should anyone or any institution be above questioning? And this is questioning does not, why is questioning equated with disrespect? Secondly, when people, constantly say that it's disrespectful or I'm trying to demean, they don't understand that I don't look at my own identity as something demeaning or lesser than anybody. And just because you are heterosexual, why should you have this privilege that everything is accessible to you just because of your sexual orientation, and you are in this space of um,
Yeah.
privilege, and you decide whether I or women, like you rightly pointed out, it's been years and years, and now I feel it's the right time because it has taken so many years for women, and we have to start this discourse for the LGBTQI community.
Okay, so now your movie or your idea for the movie, which now can't be made, at least not right now, unless you decide to go to court, and we'll have more from you on that in a moment, was inspired by the life of a young major who actually told me that he'd been watching an edition of a show I used to host called We the People, and that is what actually made him first come out to his parents, that is the first time he actually confronted his own sexual orientation. So Major Suresh, in his own words, we're going to hear from what he feels today, what he feels as a soldier who loves, by the way, his institution. So this is really not about an anti-army, anti-military sentiment at all. So let's hear from Major Suresh in his own words.
My request to the Army, Navy, and the Air Force is to treat this very human issue with compassion and fairness, for which they are so well known. As a first step, I would request them to constitute a thorough scientific study into the question of whether homosexuality is natural. Thankfully, there is more than enough proper scientific research material available on public domain from across the world. It's very likely that the study of all these research papers will lead them to conclude that homosexuality is indeed natural. Thereafter, they could constitute a second study on how national militaries across the world are treating this matter. And they'll find that in the last 10 to 15 years, most progressive militaries have revised their policy and now allow gay service personnel to serve openly. And incidentally, we've had excellent military to military cooperation with many of these militaries, like the British military, the US military, the Israeli military, and Canadian military, to name just a few. And also, the experience of these militaries can be helpful in planning the necessary change management to facilitate gay service personnel to serve openly. This study is also likely to reveal that the change in policy actually prevented the loss of their valuable trained resources, thus letting them serve without fear and with full confidence and dignity. So these would be my two sincere requests to the Indian military.
Okay, I don't think we anymore need a study on whether homosexuality is deviant or natural or optional. But the second point that Suresh makes is a very important point, that the military should move towards studying how militaries across the world have adapted to this. And I actually empathize with the fact that change in an institution like the military, it does come slow. And it has come slow even in other countries, because it is an institution that is formed on a certain hierarchical structure, a chain of command. Anything that disrupts it causes it to resist, which doesn't mean that I think it doesn't have to adapt to the times. It clearly has to, as it has with the entry of women. Onir, when you hear Major Suresh, and you must have spent a lot of time talking to him, what can you tell us about Major Suresh? Because really, it's also important to underline that this is the story of a man who loves and loved being in the military. He loved being in the army.
Yes, I just feel that, there are many more people like Major Suresh who, one loves the Indian Army, wants to be a part of the Indian Army, and some of them are in the Indian Army. And like Major Suresh mentioned rightly, that when you cannot be out and proud about your identity, you cannot give 100% in any environment. That's why today everywhere one is talking about how important it is to provide an environment where people can be open about their identities. And even like today when I see sometimes people attacking on Twitter, for example, this whole concept of what is are people mostly talking of is this weird concept of manliness. We are not talking of intelligence, strength, skill, which should be the criterias. But they're saying that, oh, gay people are psychologically not strong enough. Mostly, if you really think, be it how women have been sidelined for the longest time, or LGBTQI people, it's more because of the insecurities of a very cisgendered, male-centric,
Yeah.
system. It's their insecurities because of which we have to suffer.
Yeah,
You know,
Onir, what are you? Like I said, I think change is inevitable, and it took a couple of decades to get homosexuality to be decriminalized. It's taken another decade to be talking about women in combat. We now have women serving on aircraft carriers. We have women flying fighter jet pilots, and I think it's the last frontier is infantry, and I think it's only a matter of time now that the NDA has made space for women. So change is coming, and I think change will come and must come and has to come for the LGBTQ community. Also, my final question to you is: what are you planning to do as a movie maker who really wanted to tell this story?
yeah.
Are you planning to go to court? Are you planning to fight this legally? What are you planning to do?
See, honestly, as a filmmaker, my job is to make films and not spend my time in courts. Neither do I, as an
Sure.
independent filmmaker, have those resources. Having said that, one of the things that I want to immediately do, because, for the last few years, I've been interacting personally a lot with the Indian Army, and I've had really, really great experience, having always been respected and doing, work together for different things. I want to appeal once again. I am going to send an open letter to the defense ministry, trying to explain that it shouldn't be a long wait. We should become the 57th country in the world and a part of the progressive community, because our army deserves to be known as progressive. So I'm going to appeal first and try and have a dialogue, and if that does not happen, I always get inspired by Iranian cinema. That when you have no, 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 how do you still your story? So I will not accept being stopped. I will find a way to tell my story, that is for sure. And also, in the meanwhile, I will talk to, there are different, I think the entire LGBT community is really showing their support, and we are trying to figure out, if necessary, we will take it to court. But we our first approach is not getting into a fight, aggression, because what
Absolutely.
we're asking
And
is
yeah,
something
yeah.
simple.
Yeah, I agree. It's something simple, and the irony is that Major Suresh is coming forth and telling his story anyway on our platform, on other platforms. So it's not that the story can be kept buried. So I think that we hope the military will change its mind and allow this story to be told as a genuine dilemma for how institutions should best adapt to a changing world. Just as they're having that dialogue about women, and they've had to move on it. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before they have to address the issue of being more inclusive when it comes to the LGBTQ community. Thank you, Onir. We do hope you get to tell your story and make this movie, and we'll have you back soon once
Thank
that
you.
happens. Thank you and take
Thank
care. Goodbye. Goodbye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.